Every single day, the equivalent of 2,000 dump trucks of plastic are dumped in the world's oceans, rivers and lakes. In fact, every year, 19 to 23 million tons of plastic leaks into our aquatic ecosystems, polluting lakes, rivers and seas. It's hard to imagine in our modern world life without plastic. It's revolutionized medicine with life-saving devices, made space travel more possible, made cars and jet engines lighter, and saves lives in creating equipment for clean drinking water, to name just a few. Plastic has become a convenient and reliable material that the world as a whole relies on heavily. The biggest issue that has been born from such convenience is single-use plastic. Now, almost everything we have is made of plastic, whether it be our clothes, our devices. Now, single-use plastic actually accounts for up to 40% of the world's plastic produced every single year. We are told that we need to recycle to make the planet more sustainable, but only about 10% of all plastic is actually recycled, which is a worrying statistic in itself. Plastic is made of synthetic polymers by breaking down crude oil into its components and rearranging them. They are lightweight, durable and flexible, and can be easily mass-produced in vast amounts very cheaply. In the US, packaging makes up to 1/3 of waste produced every single year. More than 6.3 billion metric tons of plastic waste has been generated since 1907. Around 10% is recycled, 12% burned, and around 79% of which ends up in our rivers and oceans. In the last 20 years, the numbers of waste produced has increased by a terrifying degree, from 2.3 million tons in 1950 to over 448 million tons by 2015, which is reportedly expected to double by 2050. Plastics also contain additives that make the material more durable and flexible, which in turn increases the lifespan of plastic of up to 400 years. In some cases, it can be up to 1,000 years. So there's different chemicals used and additives used in plastic to make it long-lasting and durable. And one example of this would be a chemical by the name of BPA, which is used to make plastic transparent. But there's also early evidence that it can possibly interfere with our hormonal systems. Another chemical by the name of DEHP makes plastic more flexible, but early studies suggest that it could possibly cause cancer. Now, I think one important thing to note about this is these studies are very early and a lot more studies need to be done, so the science is still kind of out on the subject, but I'd find it hard to believe that these chemicals don't affect us in some negative way, because we as humans are not supposed to have plastic in our systems. The solution, you might be thinking, is okay, why don't we just ban using plastic? But that is not a simple solution, and the main reason for that is because we do not have very good alternatives. Like, for example, we make single-use plastic bags that require so little energy to be produced and very little carbon emissions, compared to a reusable cotton bag, for example, which you would have to use over 7,000 times before it actually would have a lower impact on the environment than a single-use plastic bag. But one of the most concerning things to me is microplastic. And microplastic is defined as any plastic that is under 5 millimeters in size. It is effectively found in every ocean in the world, and it's created when UV radiation breaks the plastic down in the ocean. It is estimated that there is over 51 trillion particles floating in the ocean, which is then in turn swallowed by marine life. But the problem is, once the marine life eats the plastic, it affects the food chain. So usually what would happen is, for example, plankton would eat some of this microplastic. The plankton then would get eaten by a bigger fish, and then an even bigger predatory fish would then eat that fish. So the plastic gets transferred through all these different food chains, and then of course inevitably it gets to us humans who enjoy eating fish, and then we, and as a result, end up consuming microplastic as well. But microplastic has also been found in honey, sea salt, beer, and most terrifyingly, tap water. 8 out of 10 babies, and pretty much all adults, have levels of phthalates, which is a common plastic additive found in our bodies. 93% of people have BPA in their system. So why are we so dependent on plastic? Well, it solves so many problems, but the main problem I want to talk about is food waste. Now, at the minute, currently 1/3 of the world's food is wasted every single year. And one of the reasons why we have been able to keep it at 1/3 is because we have come up with an effective food storage that keeps the food from spoiling. Because when food spoils, it creates methane gas in these landfills, which again affects the environment. So the fact that single-use plastic is used, it helps food last longer, stops it from spoiling, so there's actually less food wastage. So you could argue that creating plastic to store food offsets the amount of methane that would be produced as the food waste is occurring. Now, the vast majority of the world's plastic pollution comes from China, India, Algeria, and Indonesia. Now, it would be easy just to point the finger at these countries and tell them to cop on and calm down, but in reality, we all, as a world, rely heavily on these countries that produce products that we all consume. But the reality is, the world just simply can't function the way it currently does without plastic. There's no simple solution we have with plastic. The only way to tackle the problem is to work on it globally. Plastic is cheap and easy to produce, and it ironically offsets some of the pollution that would be created by the more apparent sustainable solutions. But the irony of that isn't wasted on me at all. The potential health effects, of course, are worrying, but like I said, the science on that is still very much out. Early studies suggest that perhaps it is something that we should be concerned about. Now, me personally, I can't imagine how it wouldn't be bad for our health, but hopefully it's not as bad for us as we fear it might be. One thing that is for sure though is banning plastic is certainly not ever going to be the answer. All we can do as a whole is reduce the amount of plastic produced and keep looking for alternative ways that are less harmful on the environment. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Please, as always, like, share and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. And let me know in the comments below if there's anything about plastic that I missed, or were you guys aware of how reliant we are on plastic? I think the most interesting thing to me is the idea that plastic actually offsets some of the alternative, more apparent sustainable options that we have that are actually ironically more harmful to the environment. And I think it's a very complex issue, and I don't think there's any real simple solution to it, but it's a bit of a gift and a curse basically. So thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Peace out.